The OG fans of Image Comics know just how impactful Spwan was in the world of comics. And of course, it's impossible to forget two of our most beloved characters, Williams and Sam Burke. As two of the most important figures in the entire universe, this detective duo has the most intimidating approaches to crime solving that arguably any other superhero universe has seen. And, much to people's surprise, they're also inexplicably involved in a lot of Spawn's most mysterious appearances. Let's take a look at how this dynamic duo has left an indelible mark in the Spawn universe and how they're arguably two of the most pivotal characters in the mysterious happenings that continually plague that universe. Before we get into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to the channel. It's a small click for you, but for us, it means everything. Thank you. Let's begin. The backstory of Sam and Twitch. The NYPD wasn't ready for a detective as sharp-witted as Sam Burke, who shared a dysfunctional partnership with Williams. Twitch was pretty soft-spoken in comparison, which led Sam to rarely ever consider his opinion and bulldoze his way through their missions. The duo formed an infamous but slightly questionable pair and were instrumental in a lot of incidents involving the elusive Spwan. When Kincaid was first released, he was observed very closely by the two police officers who kept an eye on him in the suspicion that he wasn't actually being all that honest about not harming kids ever again. While they kept watch outside his house one night, they saw a mysterious figure wearing a red cape head inside sneakily. Upon further investigation, they discovered that Kincaid had been horrifyingly murdered right under their noses and decided to take up the matter with the police department. The manner of the murder was quite strange, with the body being strung up and tied with a cryptic bloody note found at the scene. Obviously, Red Cape Guy was their primary suspect. Unfortunately for them, because they were technically there at the scene of the murder when it happened, they were put on probation by Internal Affairs, who suspected that they too may have been at fault. That didn't seem to stop them though, and their relentless search for the guy in the red cape continued. Once they were released, they got their hands on some poor street bum who they bullied into spying on the Bowery alleyways for more potential information. It wasn't long until they found Spwan, busy trying to help a friend. Unfortunately for him, that didn't go down too well until Sam and Twitch stepped in and saved the day. Spwan wasn't one to fall right into the cold, suspicious embrace of the police, even then, and rushed off the minute he got his wits about him. He was really grateful for their help, though, and demonstrated his gratitude by giving them some highly classified info on Chief Banks, along with a sound warning to stay away from him and out of his alleyways. When Sam dug deeper down the rabbit hole that was Chief Banks' life, he discovered that he'd been embroiled in a deal with Kincaid to murder Senator Jennings' daughter. Sam and Twitch take on Chief Banks. While he was staying at the hospital with his partner, Sam bumped into Twitch's wife, who was there to take care of her husband, but unfortunately turned up on the receiving end of his police partner's flirtations. After Twitch met with his wife and kids, he decided that he had to take up the Banks case with renewed vigor and was practically begging to get back to work. He was also shocked at Sam's dedication to the case and intrigued to see what they'd unearth next. Banks was caving in to all the pressure he was receiving from the higher-ups involved in the case and decided to take on Spwan himself. He headed out in search of him, but he wasn't as alone as he thought. Sam and Twitch were hot on his heels, armed with the tip that he was out to get Spwan. When he finally did face Spwan one-on-one, it wasn't long before he was forced into admitting that Jason Wynn had been as involved in the case as him, giving our heroes even more info into his web of lies and deceit. Spwan was pretty annoyed that they hadn't turned in all the information he'd given them to the authorities like he'd hoped they would. They got to it pretty promptly, but when Banks was cleared of all charges despite the overwhelming amount of evidence against him and kept roaming around free as a bird, they realized that this whole murder plot was much bigger than they'd learned. They had to do something, and they had to do it quickly. Gathering more concrete evidence on all the higher-ups involved was their only option now, and they were determined to take Banks and the rest of his accomplices down with him. The pair headed down to Connecticut in order to unravel the mystery even further and try to figure out how Banks became involved in the whole murder ploy. They found a few couriers that had been exchanged between the suspects. They traced them back to a bunch of higher-up officials in some pretty important places, revealing that whatever they were uncovering was much bigger than they'd realized. They decided to take whatever they'd gathered to a major news correspondent named Taylor, hoping that this would expose the corrupt system and all the dangerous officials that were corrupting it. It wasn't long until the matter became highly publicized, and Wynn was quick to realize that no amount of damage control could save him now, that is, until he dealt with Chief Banks himself. He blamed Banks for the whole thing, mercilessly throwing him under the bus and cutting all public and private ties with him. Sam and Twitch were fired pretty quickly afterward for their deep involvement in the whole matter, and Internal Affairs went knocking on Banks' door to get him too. Unfortunately, they were too late, and Banks was a dead man by the time they got to him, ultimately proving his guilt and Sam and Twitch's brilliance. Transitioning from fired cops to a private investigative duo. Even though they'd been fired, Sam and Twitch realized they couldn't let the matter rest there. After the blame was shifted onto Banks, the rest of the officials involved were sent off scot-free, safe to go back to their normal lives of creating an even more corrupt system with no consequences for their actions. Sam and Twitch decided to take matters into their own hands and start out afresh as private investigators. This worked out pretty well for Twitch, who was terrified of telling his wife that he'd lost his job and almost hugged Sam in relief. They used the last of their money to set up their business, investing in an overpriced and badly located apartment for their office. Sam was just full of bad business decisions, and he even wasted a good chunk of their savings on a crime mobile to respond to calls on location. Just as their business was up and running, they began receiving mysterious calls from an anonymous entity pertaining to the Banks case. After they verified the info, they realized that they had their hands on a gold mine, one that they hadn't even tried to find and had initially been skeptical of. They decided to get into the details with Spwan, who'd been their original informant at the very beginning of the case, and headed down to Rat City to talk to him. They were quick to realize that their lives were inexplicably involved after they confided in and helped each other figure out the Kincaid case. Sam and Twitch's wild case with the Rose Killer and Suture. When one of their more recent clients was murdered by a mysterious murderer who called himself the Rose Killer, Sam and Twitch were on the case with Detective Ed Lane. But once they gave him all the information they had, they were dismissed without any notice and disgraced for not being of service to ex-SHIELD members. Pretty unfair, right? They were then hired by Wayne Tanager to look into where his fiancée had disappeared to. Gretchen Culver, his betrothed, had been missing for quite some time. Upon questioning the police, the pair were stonewalled, with only one member offering up some tidbits about a car accident involving an unrecognizable Jane Doe. Once they made their way to the morgue to identify her, they realized that the usual accident protocol had been violated, and this was a clear-cut case of corruption. Perhaps Culver had been involved in something much bigger than her. They were about to find out. When they attempt to get the grave exhumed and no one shows up, they realize that the corruption ran much deeper than they'd previously assumed. They decide to take matters into their own hands and break into the apartment of a rookie cop named Kenny Osborne. They find details of an assault alongside some scriptures there and quickly put two and two together. Upon discovering that his house had been broken into, Kenny fires at them but misses the mark, quickly being subjected to a humiliating interrogation session by both ex-cops. It wasn't long until he admitted to assaulting and killing the poor woman, and once he did, they decided to take him to the police station for a proper statement. On their way to the station, they're ambushed and almost killed by a guy named Doug Halliday, who approaches them in an unmarked vehicle for ultimate secrecy. However, they managed to escape and made the walk to the station successfully. Upon reaching their destination, they rightfully accuse Halliday, but are rudely interrupted by the supervillain Suture, who's hot on his heels. He makes quick work of the murderer, leaving the investigative duo baffled and at a loss for words. It wasn't long until they realized that Suture was actually Gretchen Culver in disguise, and she'd done all this just to get her revenge, after which she disappeared right into the night. Sam and Twitch save Spwan! Annoyed at the thoughts of their fates being linked to Spwan, Sam and Twitch decide to capture him and bring him in for some serious questioning. They find him deep in the dead zone where he's powerless and has been hung against a wall. They try to pick him up and take him with them, but they find it quite a task to lift his heavy 400-pound body, let alone carry it anywhere with them. They're suddenly approached by a bunch of homeless men who just assume that they are the reason Spwan was in this state and scream bloody murder at the pair. While they're distracted and fighting with each other, the freak makes his way around Twitch and sneakily pulls a knife on him, putting it against his throat. Just then, almost miraculously, Spwan is resurrected back into his own body, but he's still extremely weak and powerless. Sam and Twitch barely manage to make their way out of the sticky situation, so they drag him with them, essentially saving his life. He then saved them right back from an ultra-violent brawl that ensued right after. In an attempt to relax and unwind, the pair make their way to a strip club. The inside of the club is pretty violent, with a fight between several individuals right in the midst. After they shoo off a man who's trying to abduct a stripper amidst all the chaos, they head back to their headquarters to file a report on the situation. Much to their surprise, a random man shows up there, refusing to go anywhere without meeting them. He conveys a cryptic message about how they must do everything they can to protect the Hellspawn and that they're now his acolytes. Much to their shock and surprise, Sam and Twitch realize that they actually believe him. Their day gets even more eventful when Cogliostro turns up with a file on Colonel Albert Simmons. He then asks them for their help on the matter. As they go through the file, they realize that Twistelli, Wynn, and Kincaid have all been tied to Spwan in some strange way, shape, or form. And guess who else's names were there? That's right, Sam and Twitch themselves. They head back out into the alleyways to find Spwan and demand some answers. That's when a random stranger begins firing at them all of a sudden, catching them off guard. Twitch is brutally shot and Sam rushes him to the hospital in a panicked fit. To his utter shock and horror, the doctors inform him that his partner's condition is pretty grave and that he might not make it through the night. As Sam sits in the hallway lamenting, Spwan appears out of nowhere and uses his superpowers to revive Twitch, saving his life. He then confirms their suspicions, informing them that they're his acolytes and must do as he says. It's only then that they realize just how serious the position they're in is. They decide that they need to find the mysterious shooter, and their leads bring them to the revelation that the shooting wasn't random at all. It was an act of pre-planned violence. As they unravel a bunch of homeless murders linked to the shooting, the realization dawns upon them that their shooters may have a set of unique marks on their neck. As the investigation unravels the mystery even further, they realize that Kincaid is linked to the shootings and that he is targeting Spwan and everyone he's close to. When they sit mulling over everything they've been through, Officer Rafferty walks by their table, dropping off a mysterious note. They soon find out that Rafferty is being possessed by Bill and used as a pawn in his evil games. As they rush to inform everyone Spwan is close to, they receive a sudden distress signal from Rat City. Upon making their way there, they discover Spwan and Billy Kincaid embroiled in the dead zone. And the culprits? All the homeless people who wanted Billy's spirit to die in an attempt to get him to stop haunting and possessing everything around him. Twitch didn't wait a second longer and pulled out his gun, aiming it at Rafferty and ruthlessly pulling the trigger to end Billy's reign of terror once and for all. Sam and Twitch are back on the NYPD. The NYPD notices Sam and Twitch's newfound success at solving crimes and asks them to join the department once more. They're once again initiated into the NYPD and are given a case involving a strange murder scene involving Lieutenant Barnes. The murder scene looks like a usual crime scene, except it has a mysterious imprint of 4 left thumbs. Pretty strange, right? What's even stranger is that the medical examiner informs them that the thumbs all come from the exact same body. Soon, more similar murder scenes are discovered, each containing the imprint of 4 randomly severed body parts, which disgustingly enough also include genitalia. Sam corners an officer named Roger Affleck, asking him for all the information he has on the case and is asked to go to a specific street corner. While this is happening, Twitch comes back with more puzzling details involving the Sangiacomo crime family and their arrests. When they rush to the scene of the crime, they find a mysterious man in a trench coat fleeing right as they arrive. They attempt to shoot him, but he manages to disappear. When Sam realizes that Twitch's wife left him for spending too much time at work, he pushes him to stop working too hard and spend more time at home with her. Right at that point, Roger Affleck bursts into the room and immediately drops dead, having been murdered by the mysterious man in the trench coat. As he dies, he utters a singular word, Udaku. Sam questions Ben's wife, Dee, asking her if she knew what the word meant. She tries to pretend like she doesn't know what he's talking about, but is soon convinced to tell him that there's a journal with all the details he needs at Grand Central Station. Once they go through the locker for themselves, they find themselves caught in a violent conflict involving the FBI and the infamous Sangiacomo crime family. The family abducts a police officer, hoping to find more information about what Udaku actually meant. Back at the station, the police are quick to realize that the Udaku is an organized crime syndicate based out of South Africa. Right as they come to this realization, their building is attacked by none other than the Udaku leader, Cecilia Udaku. Sam and Twitch get on the chase immediately, managing to trap Cecilia. Cecilia gleefully informs them that the Udaku will never stop their machinations, not until they take complete control of New York City's crime scene. In a fit of rage, Twitch makes quick work of Cecilia when she threatens to endanger his beloved family. Do they have superhuman abilities? Twitch and Spwan share a strong psychic link with one another due to him being the latter's acolyte. He's also a talented investigator, proving his skills on multiple occasions, and he's an immensely talented marksman and a patient one as well. He can wait for ages until the right moment to get the perfect shot with his handheld pistol. And as for Sam, his deductive abilities are certainly not as good as Twitch's, but he still manages to live up to his reputation as a good investigator. He's also extremely adept at squeezing information out of people through intimidation and has the ability to see through their lies. He's pretty fast and agile, even with a huge build, capable of fighting even superhuman foes thanks to his strength and durability. He's even capable of straight up fist fighting them. Imagine that. He's also believed to have an uncannily spot-on intuition that lets him detect lies in a heartbeat. He jokingly calls that his spider sense.
Go play cops and robbers, forget all about this. I wouldn't want to see your body dumped in my alley.
Marvelous verdict! And that's all we got for you today. It's clear by now that Sam and Twitch aren't your everyday detective duo. They're always on the hunt in the dark, grimy alleyways of the Spwan universe. From their beginnings as cops subdued by the dark shadow of corruption, to later forging their own path, their journey together has seen its fair share of unexpected twists and turns. With their unique blend of determination and wit, they've managed to make sense of the gravity of their roles as acolytes, often working with the enigmatic Spwan himself. Their resilience, deductive abilities, and unwavering dedication to fight for justice makes them unforgettable characters in the world of superheroes. If you want to keep following their journey together, don't forget to stay tuned. But in the meantime, what's your favorite Sam and Twitch escapade? Do you think we missed any important ones in our video? Be sure to let us know in the comments down below, but until next time, this is Wizard Wheezy signing off, but you can always find me on Twitch. If you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.